given that the Near East, West Asia is so hot right now, there's Iran just launched numerous strikes in Erbil in Iraq against a Mossad headquarters, as well as other targets locating certain terrorist groups that Israel has supported. There are reports now of Pakistan, also in northern Pakistan. There also is the situation with regard to Yemen, the Red Sea crisis that is ongoing. The Ansar Allah movement has just hit an American ship. There's constant activity there. And of course, there's still the conflict you mentioned, the fighting going on in Gaza, the brutal attack on the people of Palestine that it has been correctly labeled a genocide. And here's what Joseph Nye had to say, and I'll kick it back to you, Michael. He said it with regard to U.S. soft power in that Financial Times article. He said the U.S. even so can seem powerless. It has failed to convince its ally Israel to act with restraint in Gaza. Could it have done so in the past? It's not clear. They could have done it 20 years ago. George W. Bush intimated in 1991 that American aid could be cut and that they may have helped to stimulate the Oslo process, but that didn't bring about two states. Israel is not the only ally that has proved quite capable of resisting the U.S., pointing to Saudi Arabia and others. For the moment, Israel is hurting its own soft power and by extension hurting American soft power. Kick it back to you, Michael.
This is the big lie that America is trying to promote. The idea that the pretense that when Blinken goes to talk to Netanyahu, he says, when you drop the next bombs and kill the next 20,000 Gaza era Palestinians, please be gentle with them. Please obey the laws of war and stop bombing the ambulances, stop bombing the hospitals. That's all public relations crap. The reality is that he's telling Netanyahu to go forward. It's America. All these bombs that are dropping are made in America and sent to Israel to drop. America says here every week. America is saying, here is a new delivery of bombs. Go to it. Here is billions of dollars more for you to get by while you've drafted your working population into the army. America is pushing Israel. Beginning 50 years ago, I used to travel with to work with Netanyahu's main Mossad and now National Security Advisor Uzi Arad. And I remember, I think I mentioned before, on one occasion we were going to Japan and stopped off in San Francisco for some discussions, and an army officer came up threw his arms around Uzi and said, you Israelis are our landed aircraft carrier in the Near East. Well, that was 50 years ago. And last week in the New York Times, I hear exactly the same phrase. Israel is our aircraft carrier. To the United States, Israel is America's Ukraine in the Near East. It's the United States that is pushing Israel to goad first Lebanon and then Iran into doing something that will justify a huge American attack, trying to do to Iran what Hillary Clinton did to Libya, utterly destroying it and destroying the population, and in the process grabbing its gold supply. We don't know what's happened to that. Installing ISIS as its foreign legion in as much of Libya as possible, and grabbing the Libyan oil supply. Well, in the New York Times, in the Wall Street Journal, and on the TV, whenever they talk about Hamas or Hezbollah, they don't say Hamas and Hezbollah. They say Iran-backed Hamas, Iran-backed Hezbollah. They don't talk about the Yemeni army, the Houthis, they say the Iranian-backed Houthis. There is a huge public relations push to convince the American population that Iran is the big enemy, and President Biden says again and again that Iran is the enemy. The army, Petraeus, and the neocons have said from the very beginning, Iraq and Syria are merely the dress rehearsal for where we really want to go, Iran. And their hatred of Iran stems from the fact that they overthrew the Iranian government of Mossadegh back in the 1950s, along with British help as usual. And they're sure that, well, we've hurt you so much that we're sure you must hate us. And since we know you hate us because of what we've done to you, we've got to attack you because we've made you an enemy by overthrowing your government when we grabbed your oil and put in the Shah that ran a murderous torture regime for a few decades in Iran. Well, that basically is the American policy that is goading it into a war that probably will be more disastrous for the United States than the war in Ukraine was. At least in Ukraine, all the Americans lost were Ukrainians, and I guess they had a few mercenary troops that they hired over there. But in the Near East, they're going to lose a lot more than was at stake in just Ukraine. They'll probably lose Israel's role as a landed aircraft carrier, and in fact, they're going to lose a lot of their own floating aircraft carriers that are near there, and they've already lost control of the Red Sea and the oil Gulf, basically between Iran and Egypt. And there's also a possibility that they'll even lose the support of Egypt and Saudi Arabia. Because even though in the Arab Spring, the Americans pulled a color revolution, Arab Spring, where they replaced the hated Egyptian President Mubarak with his own protege, Sisi. Who is now running it? Sisi is totally in the U.S. pockets, and yet the Egyptian population, needless to say, being largely Arabic, is supporting Gaza, not the United States. Similarly, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia and Ukraine were in the process of making a rapprochement on actually alliance with Israel along sort of the same lines that Greece had been making with Israel for a Mediterranean military force. Well, now much of the Saudi population is Palestinian. They found jobs in Saudi Arabia, and they're outraged at Saudi Arabia's trying to sit on the fence at the same time that it has joined the BRICS. It realizes that all of its foreign reserves are held hostage by the United States. What's going to be more important to Saudi Arabia? Fighting to protect the Islamic population under attack, or saving its own reserves that are kept in the United States, not to help Saudi Arabia at all? Same thing with Egypt. The population there, between Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, these were the main American bastions in the Near East, and now it's in danger of losing them. If in the case of war, they're under tremendous political pressure and instability. And further to the west in Africa, you have the former French colonies also being Islamic. You can imagine, they're breaking away not only from France and supporting the rest of Africa, Central Africa, from breaking away from France, but essentially moving into an alliance with the BRICS countries, with Russia and China. So all of a sudden, the American decision to go to war with Russia in Ukraine by after the 2015 Maidan massacre and regime change, putting in the neo-Nazis. You're having the fighting in Israel, and those two U.S.-sponsored attacks have had the exact opposite effect of what the United States politicians promised. Just as they'd promised that Russia would break up and essentially the economy would crash under the sanctions and under the force of war, they believed that Israel's army was so strong that it was going to simply be able to wipe out Hamas. And it's the big fighting. There's not a word of this in the United States press, but the big fighting is on the West Bank. The United Netanyahu is saying, well, here, while they're all looking at what we're bombing the civilians and the hospitals and the ambulances and starving Gaza, we've distracted the world, and we can now wipe out the Arabs on the West Bank and move right into Syria on the Golan Heights. And apparently the United States has promised Israel that it can take whatever it wants of Syria, which it's still opposing. We don't know what Russia is going to do in all of this. Russia, China have been completely silent in all of this, and I can understand they're silent. China has moved naval ships into the area because itself is very dependent on the Red Sea and the sea lanes to oil in Saudi Arabia. When the United States keeps saying, threatening, the Yemenis are going to bomb ships there and block the trade, that's what they want. The United States realizes that if they can goad Yemen and Iran into blocking the Straits of Hormuz and the Gulf, this will indeed stop the oil trade. And it's true that, as Eve Smith pointed out in Naked Capitalism today, the sea lanes to Saudi Arabia were closed for many years. After the 1967 war, they were closed numerous times for many months. And it's not unthinkable that they're closed, but that was then. Now, if you close them, it will be the main energy buyers in Asia, China, and other countries that are going to be hurt. And that is, from the United States point of view, that will give the United States even more power to control the oil supply of the world as a bargaining chip in trying to renegotiate this new international order. So you're having the United States basically play the only tactic that it can actually use. It can't use the tactic to say, we're the growing economy and you want to trade with us, not with China and Russia, because they're growing faster than the US and Europe. They don't really have anything to offer except the ability to disrupt foreign trade and foreign monetary and financial systems and agree to stop disrupting it if other countries will simply let the United States be the unipolar decision maker. And I should have added the dimension before when we were talking about China and Russia and the Siberian development. The Eurasian countries have one great advantage over the United States and Europe. The United States and Europe have essentially privatized what was the whole public infrastructure system. And being privatized, they're now natural monopolies. and they're run in the way that, say, Thames Water is run in England. They're run as monopolies that are underinvesting and simply using a chokehold to increase their monopoly rents, which they report as profits. But China, Russia, Asian countries have kept the basic infrastructure, transportation, education, healthcare, communications as public utilities, and they are investing. They are run by engineers, industrial engineers, not financial engineers, and they are run not only much more efficiently, but they don't have the financial overhead and the monopoly rent overhead that plagues privatized infrastructure. So the cost of production in the non-neoliberalized world, I guess we can call it the world moving towards socialism, is so much more efficient than the neoliberal financialized West that you can see the magnetic pull of Africa and South America. And as it happens, these are also the main raw materials suppliers of the world. So if the United States and Europe don't have raw materials, don't produce their own oil, except what the Europeans have to pay at enormous markups to American producers, you're going to have Europe looking pretty much like post-Soviet Latvia and Estonia. The population is going to emigrate, they're going to shrink. You're going to have a flowering of interaction and throughout all of Eurasia and Africa. And essentially, the United States can try to stop this by triggering a new oil war in the Near East. But that's really the last gasp. It's very unlikely that this is going to lead Taiwan to say, well, we're going to follow Ukraine and Israel, and you can fight to the last Taiwanese, just as you're fighting to the last Ukrainian and the last Israeli. I think that the United States is creating a turmoil that is demonstrating to the other world the need for essentially, I won't call it an iron curtain, but for it to go its own way. And for a break in economic systems. And as President Putin has said again and again, this is a civilizational war. It's a war to say, in what direction is civilization going to go? Is it going to be towards neo-feudalism, back toward feudalism, which is the neoliberal rent-seeking 1%, or is it going to be towards where industrial capitalism was originally evolving towards socialism and towards raising living standards instead of imposing IMF financial austerity on the dollar block? So that's the choice that America's we're seeing in the Near East and other countries right now. Are you going to have a future of austerity or essentially prosperity and economic growth?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is, I don't think there's a better way to connect all of those developments, especially with regard to what's happening in the Near East, or what some call the Middle East, or what others call West Asia. I mean, the clashes are escalating. There's clashes even between Egypt and Israel, which is almost unheard of. And now, with everything that you said, you're saying that this is not going to work at all, that the United States won't be able to wrestle control as it is seeking in the region. How do you see this playing out? Maybe we can close on this point, given that it's not going to work. And if it's not going to work, then what other options do the United States and maybe the broader collective West have? Because you've outlined it perfectly. This is an economic war. This is a war for economic dominance and control. So how will it just crumble on its own, or will the United States and whoever it can drag along with it, escalate and maneuver in a manner that we should all be aware of?
The United States has one dynamic more than any other country of the world, and that is rage. That is the feeling that you have in Washington now. Not only rage, but as with most rage, it's combined with fear. The Democrats fear that they're going to lose the election and that Donald Trump is going to come in and clean up the FBI police state and to get rid of the CIA. That's basically what he's pledged to do, the deep state. So the deep state is worried that it's going to be, not that the United States is going to be left to stagnate, but that they themselves, their control of the United States will stagnate. And the deep state is willing to destroy the U.S. economy. That's been the Democratic Party since Clinton has the objective of destroying the U.S. economy in order to benefit the control of the 1% over the 99%, and it's willing to use military war to fight, to escalate in the Near East, to escalate in Ukraine, and to escalate, presume, in the China Sea, to somehow provoke and essentially saying, "Well, we're going to go to war. We're going to have a grab bag because who wants to live in a world that we don't control?" Well, just this is like what Russia said when America was threatening to atom bomb it with its withdrawal from the arms agreements. Russia said, "Don't think that we won't fight back. Who wants to live in a world without Russia?" Well, the United States government is saying, "Who wants to live in America that we can't control?" That the banks and the military-industrial complex and the pharmaceutical complex and the basically the finance monopolist sector can't control. If we can't control it, we're willing to have the whole country go under. That's really what it is. And they're using the control of the press for any of this. For instance, on Saturday and Sunday in Washington, there were huge demonstrations against the attacks on the Palestinians. Not a word of this in the New York Times, or not a word of it on television. There's not a word of what's happening in the Near East, or what President Putin and President Xi are saying in the news at all. It's as if the world is already divided into a visible world, the deep state world, and the invisible world, reality of the 95% or 85%. So the American people are sort of there's the fight politically towards November is, are people going to be able to really believe that the Biden administration is helping the economy instead of defending the CIA, the FBI, the national security state, the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical complex, the real estate, and Wall Street against the population by deindustrializing, or has all this been a detour that's made us poor? That's going to be the question. And the fact that you're already having on social media blocking of any criticism of Israel or the United States, you're having a kind of control here that is very similar control that you're having in.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.